world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
Today in Paris, a centuries-old landmark lost in the fire that nearly destroyed Notre Dame Cathedral in 2019 is taking shape on the city's skyline. CBS's Elaine Cobb is there.
For the first time in nearly 5 years, the outline of a spire is again visible in the skyline above Notre Dame. Workers on scaffolding high above Paris are installing the new spire's wooden framework on the cathedral roof. It was April 2019 when fire engulfed the cathedral. The world looked on in horror as the spire, made of oak and metal, collapsed in the flames. Teams of architects and artisans have been working tirelessly to rebuild the spire to its original 19th century design. Architect Axel Poncenet has been reproducing the spire's decorative finishings.
It's a very complex structure, and never today we are rebuilding such structures. And what's amazing is that we are really trying to be very specific in the way we rebuilt it.
Workers continue to set the oak framework of the 300-foot spire in place, shaping the outline that's been missing from Paris since the fire. The framework will be covered in a sheath of metal and the decorative finishings added. The cage of scaffolding will remain in place while that work is completed. Then the spire will rise again over Paris. Work on the rest of the cathedral continues too. The public authority overseeing the reconstruction says it is on track and the cathedral will be ready to reopen to the public a year from now.
As soon as reservations opened at the Lucky Arrow Retreat, every one of these safari tents was claimed for April 8th.
That was one of our first events booked for 2024.
Serena Chapa runs the 15-acre boutique hotel on the outskirts of Dripping Springs. She had heard about the Texas solar eclipse.
There's a queen bed.
But was surprised by the flood of calls from people wanting to book all units around that one date.
At least 10 different groups just wanting the whole property, but it sold pretty quick.
Dripping Springs isn't the only Central Texas city seeing tourism shoot sky high.
It's a huge deal, yeah.
Mitch Morales is organizing the Texas Eclipse Festival. Crews are already working nonstop to prepare for a huge influx of sky watchers at Reveille Peak Ranch in Burnett.
We're expecting probably between 30 and 50,000 people to attend.
To find out why Burnett and Dripping Springs are such a big deal,
this is the area.
we talked to UT astronomy professor Anita Cochran.
Anywhere along this line in Texas will be a total eclipse.
It's called the Path of Totality and stretches from San Antonio through Central Texas and the Hill Country to Dallas. If you're in the path, this is what it will look like when the moon completely covers the face of the sun. The daytime darkness is a sight not to miss, and for those wanting the maximum experience, picking the right location in Texas is critical. For example, Dripping Springs will be in the daytime darkness for almost 3 minutes. Burnett tops that at 4:20. But Austin only experiences totality for 1 minute and 44 seconds. Which means tens of thousands of people are expected to be heading out of Austin on April 8th, looking for a longer view.
This will be bigger than any event that we have during the year.
Roman Bolligod organized a solar eclipse task force in Dripping Springs. T-shirts and protective glasses for safe viewing were easy to check off his to-do list.
We'll be ordering, I believe, 30,000 of these glasses to be able to hand out to people coming through.
The harder job will be keeping Highway 290 from turning into a parking lot and ensuring restaurants and gas stations are stocked with enough food and fuel.
Estimates are 5 to 7 times what we normally see on a weekend.
The crush of eclipse chasers from the U.S. and around the world is also being drawn to Central Texas because there's a greater chance to have cloud-free weather on April 8th. No one wants to miss what they might not see again.
If you've never seen an eclipse, you'll be smitten by it. It's just a magical experience.
Betty Cross, CBS Austin News.
Sultan!
In the wake of the blood moon, and just hours before Mehmed launches his final assault, he's met by an apocalyptic sight.
Lights appear to be shining on the roof of Hagia Sophia.
Oh my God!
What kind of sorcery is this?
Hazmat guys aren't set yet.
Can't wait. Quickly! This could break any moment.
Better.
Sienna, there are too many of us down here. You won't get to that bag before we do.
No, but I can make sure it breaks.
Come on, don't do this, Sienna, don't. You'll be murdering innocents.
Yes, people will die. A lot of them, but the crisis will be averted. It's what nature demands. The problem won't just be slowed down, it'll be solved permanently.
Killing billions to save lives. That's the logic of tyrants.
For a greater good, humanity...
Genius does not come with extra rights,
No,
Sienna.
it comes with the responsibility to take action when others won't.
Video of a former president going viral on social media tonight. It comes from a speech George W. Bush gave tonight at the Bush Center in Dallas. While speaking about the authoritarian regime in Russia and Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, Mr. Bush made a verbal blunder.
The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Saying, Dick, if the Hunan Palace doesn't get lunch here in 4 minutes, we're going out. Nope, no weapons over there.
I have some breaking discoveries to share with you in our journey to understand this scene in I, Pet Goat 2 and how it relates to what we're experiencing this very moment in history. Let's watch.
America's newest long-range stealth bomber made its public debut today. The B-21 Raider is the U.S. Air Force 6th-generation stealth fighter, which is intended to replace the aging bomber fleet. It's designed to deliver both conventional and nuclear weapons while flying undetected to air defense systems. The Air Force plans to acquire at least 100 new bombers, which will cost about $203 billion over the next 30 years. The aircraft was named after the famous airmen Doolittle Raiders, who flew the surprise bombing run in Tokyo in 1942. The new Raider will be stationed at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota, while Dyess Air Force Base in Texas could be an alternate location.
You're with the Illuminati.
Beg your pardon. There's no such thing. It's just a bedtime story.
Illuminati.
The people of the light.
在西港后飘带，愿善良的人们天天好运来。
你勤劳生活美，你健康春常在。
你一生的忙碌为了笑逐颜开。
那个双喜节，青春放千个彩，愿我们的日月年年好运来。
你风舞太平年，你龙腾新时代。
你幸福的家园迎来百花盛开。
好运来，祝你好运来，好运带来了喜和爱。好运来，我们好运来，迎着好运兴旺发达通四海。
People like them together because I think they're like every family. They're kind of that weird dysfunctional family where they all love each other, but they get on each other's nerves all the time, and they've got a lot to work out.
Tigress, no!
The hardcore do understand, but I can't watch my friend be killed.
I think the relationship between Poe and Tigress has a lot more going on in Kung Fu Panda 2 than in the first movie.
I am ready.
你幸福的家园迎来百花盛开。
好运来，祝你好运来。Please, no more. No.
We all remember this scene in I, Pet Goat 2. The mother in the hijab head covering with the red nimbus around her head. It took me a lot of digging and research to find out exactly what this was on her head, and I finally came to the conclusion that this is what's called a red nimbus, and it was very popular in classical art going back to the 4th, 5th, and 6th century. This is the Mother and Jesus mosaic. Let me show you. This exists inside of what is called the Hagia Sophia Mosque.
It created this incredibly hysterical atmosphere within the city that they could be looking at the end of the world.
The city is meant to have been protected by the Virgin Mary. There's the story that on the last day of Constantinople, she was seen leaving the city.
Allah has abandoned the infidels!
Pope Francis then proceeded to Hagia Sophia, a Christian basilica dedicated to the divine wisdom, which was built by the Emperor Constantine, destroyed several times by fire, and rebuilt in 532 by Justinian. After Constantinople was conquered by Muslim armies in 1453, the Sultan Mehmed II transformed Hagia Sophia into a mosque. In 1935, the founder of modern Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, ordered the building to be turned into a museum. At the end of his visit, Pope Francis inscribed 2 thoughts in the Golden Book. The first, in Greek, reads, "Holy Wisdom of God." The second, in Latin, is taken from Psalm 83. "How dear are your tabernacles, O Lord."
This is it here on the left-hand side. The Hagia Sophia Mosque, it could be pronounced Hagia Sophia Mosque, and this is in Turkey. It was the largest building in the world during the time of its construction. And here's the side-by-side with I Pet Goat 2 in the Mother Mary.
Look there, we've got the same kind of symbology on a Catholic basilica, which is kind of ironic. I'm here today at Washington DC with this big shrine to the Catholic Church here of the Immaculate Conception to have a deeper look at what it's all about. So much symbology in here. The National Shrine of Immaculate Conception. I mean, if that is not revering the Mother. Europa. And look at him, I mean, he's bowing. I've heard so many say they don't revere Mary in that way, the false Mary. But he's bowing to this Ishtar, Isis figure.
On the first day of the year, during the Angelus prayer, Pope Francis wished that every man and woman in the world would be able to welcome God, who has made man.
Oggi la Madonna ci benedice tutti, tutti. Benedice il cammino di ogni uomo e ogni donna in quest'anno che si inizia e che sarà buono proprio nella misura in cui ciascuno avrà colto la bontà di Dio che Gesù è venuto a portare nel mondo.
On the solemnity of Mary, Mother of God, the Pope invited the pilgrims to think especially about Our Lady, greeting her like this.
Che io vorrei che tutti la salutiamo adesso, dicendo per 3 volte Santa Madre di Dio. Insieme, Santa Madre di Dio, Santa Madre di Dio, Santa Madre di Dio.
Now I'm going to read from this book called Queen of Rome, Queen of Islam, Queen of All by Jim Tetlow, Roger Oakland, and Brad Myers on page 44 and page 45. Why do the people of the East revere the Virgin Mary as Catholicism? Could it be that she is indistinguishable from their own goddesses? Sheen cites the Chinese goddess Kuan Yin as an example of the many Eastern goddesses that are similar to the, quote, Blessed Mother, unquote, of Catholicism.
Look, pillars and archways, all the same designs as the other places, and she's sitting on a foundation stone there behind these pillars where the veil would be, like in the Holy of Holies again. Same representation. The Mother Goddess, Semiramis, Diana and Child, the False Mary.
Now what you're going to notice is that she is nursing the boy. And, of course, Mother Mary nursed the man at the crucifixion. Things came full circle. And so you see this boy wrapped in basically the burial linen. So there's more to this than meets the eye. Now, in looking at and digging into this image, this mosaic, we begin to see a picture emerge. Here is the Encyclopedia Britannica, I believe this is, which actually shows, yeah, this is the Ancient History Encyclopedia. It confirms that this is the Mother Mary and Jesus, the Hagia Sophia Mosque of Turkey. Now we're going to dig into this today, and you're going to see some very crazy synchronicities that relate to exactly what we're experiencing right now. Now, when you look at this image, it was actually inaugurated on March 29th, the 88th day of the year, in 867 AD. The apse mosaics, the Virgin and Child mosaic, was the first of the post-iconoclastic mosaics, inaugurated on March 29th, 867. Now, what is the significance of this? Well, later in the scene in iPet Goat, you're going to see the boy that's in her arms, and he basically presents himself as a whirling dervish. And what these people do, this is the Sufi faith, and they whirl around until they get into some kind of a trance, and then they believe that they're more connected to the spirit realm. It's this swirling, whirling, and look, you actually even see that up here, this spiral effect. And later it's repeated here in iPet Goat 2. You're going to see the boy whirling above the mosque. So what I believe now is that this mosque is actually, this is the Hagia Sophia.
In the 13th century, while most Turkish Muslims worshipped in iconic mosques, an entirely new display of praise began to gather a following. Known as the Sema ritual, it was the vision of Sufi master Rumi. The purpose, to honor Allah and chronicle the spiritual path man must take on the journey to enlightenment. Samarkandis from the Mevlevi order of whirling dervishes are the only ones allowed to perform the ceremony. It's captivating for us, but meant for the heavens. A powerful display performed in a trance-like state.
While we whirl, we say Allah. It's the name of the God. We don't think anything about our family, our work, other people, just Allah.
That I showed you the artwork that is housed inside of the Hagia Sophia, which is what we just showed you. Okay. Now, over the years, we were close with this. We named another mosque called the Soleimani Mosque, and it was also on the Golden Horn of Turkey.
And it made us think of the Istanbul location.
And on their map, it's called the Golden Horn, and it represents a rhinoceros horn. And then iPet Goat Video has this rhinoceros head and horn that the mosque is sitting on, and Horus rises out of it with the one eye.
That particular mosque is just yards away from the Hagia Sophia, so we were very close. But I want you to look at this. I've got it in slow motion. This is a whirling dervish. It's the Sufi faith. We're going to tie in some other things from history going back to 2013 that also relate very closely to what this is. So this is the mosque here that I believe is being represented. Originally we thought it was the Soleimani Mosque, but it's actually something else. Now, this mosque is actually destroyed by bombers, right? They come over in iPet Goat 2 and they drop bombs earlier in the animation here. So we named that other mosque the Soleimani Mosque on the Golden Horn of Turkey as the famed iPet Goat 2 mosque that was taken out by these munitions. And we base that off of this rhino-like horn protruding from the mosque. You can actually see it in this other scene. You see this horn coming off the front of this thing that looks a lot like a rhinoceros when the jets fly over and drop the munitions on it. Those are square and compasses, by the way. And there you see the rhinoceros horn on the front. So we made the connection this was the rhinoceros horn. So we named the Soleimani Mosque back in 20. So you have to ask yourself, will this come to pass, the destruction of this mosque? Well, historically, this dome was destroyed several times by earthquakes, and it is in a precarious situation right now. It's one of the most visited mosques in the world in Turkey.
This one-time Christian church turned imperial mosque turned museum is said to be the epitome of Byzantine architecture. The Hagia Sophia is a beautiful structure with equally as impressive history. Let's go take a walk. As soon as I walked through the Imperial Gate into the giant main gallery, I was blown away by its size and design. Our local guide explained how different rulers have dictated the building's religious ties, and it was really cool to see the remnants of each. The incredible city of Istanbul has been home to many civilizations throughout the centuries, and none have been more influential than the powerful Byzantine and Ottoman empires. And some of the unique characteristics of these two cultures live on within the walls of the Hagia Sophia. From there, I headed up the old stone stairs to the horseshoe-shaped upper gallery, where you get a closer view of the impressive ceilings and architecture. From Greek Orthodox to Roman Catholic, and from Christian Basilica to Imperial Mosque, the Hagia Sophia is a beautiful representation of the city around it. Transformed by the empires who called it home, and forever marked with reminders of its rich history.
The Hagia Sophia, as it stands today, was rebuilt by a particular individual called Justinian I. And he was also depicted with this red-looking halo above his head. There's also a mosaic of him inside this mosque. Okay, here he is here with his red halo, probably close to the same artist created this mosaic. This is all made out of tiny little tiles, and this is Justinian I. Now, this was a very interesting character, this Justinian I, because Trump actually plays into this. Trump was sent a letter from this very mosque. Now, what are the odds of this? On the summer solstice eclipse an Orthodox group begs Trump to save the Hagia Sophia from mosque conversion. Currently, the mosque is actually a museum. They converted it to a museum, and now they're talking about turning it back into a mosque. This story was dated June 21st, the day of the summer solstice eclipse that just happened, and also the day that Donald Trump did his first comeback rally. We covered all that on this channel. It says here, an Orthodox group has sent a letter to President Trump calling on him to intervene to prevent Turkey from turning the Hagia Sophia into a mosque. The Christian website Aletheia said, Anthony so-and-so, National Commander of the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle, implored Trump to work to prevent this sacrilegious and unnecessary decision in a letter dated June 17th. And it talks about the Hagia Sophia, originally built as a Byzantine cathedral in 537, was turned into a mosque following the Ottoman conquest. We're going to look at all the history of this. So these people made it a point to send this letter out on the summer solstice, and you're about to see why. Because this goes very, very deep. So, Justinian and Trump, they actually share lots and lots of connections. Much of the iconography that you see, these mosaics, they were actually masked and plastered over the centuries as the Islamic faith took over in this area. They covered it up with Islamic calligraphy. And these were rules and laws, Islamic edicts that happened over the years that ordered all of this imagery that we just showed you to be covered up. And they're just recently now uncovering it. And it's interesting because if you look on the front of the mosque here in iPetGoat, you'll see that they actually show a calligraphy pen. And we saw that, but we didn't know quite what it meant. But now we know. Islamic calligraphy is what covered up much of this mosque. The murals, and as well as the tapestries and all of the mosaics that were inside of this mosque. So now you're seeing the destruction of the dome, and I'm going to show you exactly what that means, because that happened over the years as well. So the Sufi Muslim boy comes out of the top of this, the whirling dervish, and there you see the calligraphy all over the front of this. There's actually a calligraphy pen right there. It's very small at the entrance of this doorway, but you can see the tip of it there. And that's because over the centuries they covered all of this up. Okay. Now we're going to look at some of the specifics of this mosque. The central square of the mosque is 99 Byzantine feet. Now, what is the significance of 99 Byzantine feet? Well, we all know, those of you that have been on this channel know that 99 is all we've been talking about. 99 and 66, right? Because of the 66th floor penthouse of Trump. But here it is right here. The Hagia Sophia is not 100 Byzantine feet, but instead 99. There's more synchronicities. It was inaugurated 2 days after Apollo's birthday. We've been talking all about Apollo, the Apollo eclipse on December 26th. Okay? And here it is, the inauguration, December 27th, just 2 days after Apollo's birthday in 537. But there's more. The main dome collapsed from an earthquake in 558 AD. Here it is right here. Earthquakes in August 553 and on December 14, 557 caused cracks in the main dome. The main dome collapsed completely during a subsequent earthquake on the 7th of May 558, destroying the ambient altar and ciborium. So now you know exactly what you're looking at in this scene from My Pet Goat, The Collapse of the Dome.
Hagia Sophia was the Cathedral of Constantinople. It was the primary church of the Bishop of Constantinople, who became known as its patriarch from the 5th century. This is the third church to have stood on the site. The first one may even have been conceived of by Constantine when he founded Constantinople. That church survived until the early 5th century, when it perished in a fire, and it was replaced by a bigger, more splendid one, the Theodosian Church, which itself was burned down in a huge riot in 532. Justinian set about rebuilding, and Justinian's Hagia Sophia has been standing ever since. All the occupants of Constantinople, of whatever religion, have continued to be amazed by this church and to want to preserve it, to have it for themselves. One of the first things that Mehmed the Conqueror did on taking the city was to declare that this should become a mosque. The church served as the main mosque of the Ottoman Empire until the end of the Ottoman Empire, and then it was converted into a museum and has been such since 1934.
And even now, they're saying that because of water and humidity, that there's all these problems with the repaired dome. That it is basically on the verge of imminent collapse. The building's copper roof had cracked, causing water to leak down over the fragile frescoes and mosaics. Moisture entered from below as well. Rising groundwater had raised the level of the humidity within the monument, creating an unstable environment for stone and paint. So this is the state of the modern Hagia Sophia. Now, my guess is that it's only a matter of time before this collapses, and the dome just happens to be 107 feet in diameter, which of course is the 107, number 107 in the scene about the Florence Nightingale effect in Back to the Future, which is shortened to 17, which is Q.
Florence Nightingale was a pioneer of public health and the founder of modern nursing.
Because of Florence Nightingale, nursing is one of the most regulated and respected professions in the world.
Named after her city of birth, Florence, Italy, Florence Nightingale was born on May 12, 1820, into an upper-class British family.
As a woman of her time and her class, it would have been expected that she would marry, maintain a lovely home, and be a hostess. But Florence Nightingale had very different plans. Though at the time nursing was not a respected profession, Nightingale felt very called to become a nurse.
At age 24, Nightingale defied her parents' expectations to marry a suitable match and left England to study at the Kaiserswerth Hospital in Dusseldorf, Germany.
When she returned from Germany, she took a job as a nurse at a hospital in London, and she was eventually promoted after only a year to be head of nursing there.
She improved sanitary conditions so much that she garnered a reputation as a reformer and as an advocate for public health.
During the Crimean War, the British press made public the horrendous conditions of the wounded soldiers in Turkey. The army turned to Florence Nightingale for help.
Sidney Herbert, Secretary at War, reached out directly to Nightingale. When Nightingale and her band of nurses arrived at Scutari, the hospital in the Crimea, they were shocked at what they found.
The field hospitals were positioned on cesspools of putrid water. Patients were lying in their filth. More soldiers were dying from infections than they were from wounds sustained on the battlefield.
Many of the reforms that Florence Nightingale instituted were quite revolutionary. Nightingale insisted that there be fresh air and water for all the soldiers, that recuperating soldiers receive healthy food to eat to help make them better, and that all of the bandages and sheets and blankets were adequately laundered each day.
By the time she was done, Florence Nightingale had succeeded in reducing the death rate within these military hospitals by 2/3.
Known as the Angel of the Crimea, Nightingale returned to England and received a hero's welcome, a medal from Queen Victoria, and a gift of $250,000. She devoted the rest of her life to effecting change in medical care.
In 1860, Florence Nightingale founded at St. Thomas Hospital in London the Nightingale Training School for Nurses.
She was a pioneer in the use of cutting-edge statistical methods of the time to design hospitals and medical systems to maximize the health of the community at large.
This really helped her to make her message known to the parliamentarians and government agencies who would make important decisions about hospitals and healthcare.
In her later years, Nightingale was officially honored by Germany, France, Norway, and numerous prestigious British societies. She died at her London home on August 13, 1910.
The fact that we have a nursing profession today is in large part thanks to the work of Florence Nightingale.
I'm delighted to be with you all today, in digital spirit, that is, at least. And let me start by reiterating all that has been said so far and paying tribute to the incredible work that NHS staff across the country have been doing to tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Their selfless commitment has touched the hearts of the entire nation. The building you are standing in is yet another example of how people across the country have risen to this unprecedented challenge. The Nightingale hospitals will rightly go down as landmarks in the history of the NHS. And the NHS Nightingale Hospital Birmingham is a wonderful example of Britain pulling together. And having spoken to some of the people who helped build it, hospitals are about the people and not the bricks. NHS staff, armed forces, local governments, and the private sector have collectively stepped up to turn this exhibition centre into a hospital. You all deserve our huge thanks, and you should all be hugely proud of what you have achieved in such a short space of time. I know that the Nightingale Birmingham will provide invaluable resources for hospitals from miles and miles around. This will reassure people across the Midlands that if their local hospitals reach capacity, there will be extra beds available for their loved ones here. I find that very comforting, and I know many other people will too.
Let's look at what Doc Brown had to say about Florence Nightingale. Yes, you heard me correctly. Florence Nightingale mentioned by name in this scene in Back to the Future.
This place is up. Looks brand new.
I remember it, and they won't have kids. You'll be next.
Sounds pretty.
So Marty and Doc Brown walk into the Hill Valley High School.
Heavy.
Wait, has nothing to do.
Okay, you got.
So you see, I think this is George McFly, his father, George, right? And he gets picked on.
Very funny. You guys are being real.
So they're kicking him and they're harassing him, and what do we call it? Bullying, right? What is Trump known for? Keep watching.
Sure.
Maybe we were adopted.
Okay, real mature guys. Jesus, didn't that guy ever have hair?
Shape up, man.
Okay, Biff, we pick up my book. So obviously Biff's in the scene. He asks Biff, which is Trump, to pick up his books. He won't.
Pick up my books. That's Strickland.
And you're going to see later in the scene, right across from George McFly, is the number 17 on the door, which is Q, which is Trump.
You want to be a slacker for the rest of your life? Oh. What did your mother ever see in that kid?
I don't know, Doc. I don't know. I guess you felt sorry for him because her dad hit him with the car.
So his mother hits George in with his car. His mother feels sorry for George and ends up succumbing, falling in love, whatever you want to call it, because of the Florence Nightingale effect.
Hit me with the car.
That's the Florence Nightingale effect. It happens in hospitals when nurses fall in love with their patients.
Happens in hospitals when nurses fall in love with their patients. Now, we had looked at this scene a couple years ago, and pulled out the 17. I think we had already identified the 17 and Biff and tied that into Q. Well, now there's another aspect to this, the Florence Nightingale effect, which I just laid out for you what exactly that means. That this whole thing we're going through, it's probably called Project Nightingale. That's my guess. I don't know that. But think about it. They wanted us all to fall in love with the nurses. They're heroes, right? You drive down, I just drove through 7 states, and all you see is signs saying, our heroes, respect our heroes. Do something for your heroes, right? They wanted us all to fall in love with the nurses. They wanted us all together at home. Show you the documentation of this diameter of the actual dome. Now, a lot of mathematics went into the construction of the Hagia Sophia by Justinian. And Justinian's entire, we're going to talk more about Justinian, how he dovetails into Donald Trump, because he's actually been compared to Donald Trump. So it's almost as if they basically predicted, IPETGO 2 predicted the Trump presidency, because that's who he's been compared to. Here it is here. The Great Dome of Hagia Sophia is 107 feet in diameter and is only 2 feet thick. So, they say here that it is shaped like a scalloped shell, or the inside of an umbrella, with ribs that extend down from the top down to the base. Let me show you that. Here it is. Why is that significant? Because in this scene in IPETGO 2, she is sitting in a scallop shell. Right here, as you can see here. And when you look at the side by side, you also see that the image of Mother Mary and Jesus is also sitting in what appears to be a shell. And that's why these images look so identical to one another. Now, here's where we get into deeper thought, because the pearl represents the pure part of an unclean shellfish. You see, the way that a pearl actually grows inside of a shellfish, they think, they're not sure, but there is an impurity, or a piece of sand or grain of sand or something that's inside, finds its way inside of the scallop or clam. And what happens is, or oyster I should say, and some people actually guess that it could be a microorganism that begins the process of how a pearl is created. Now, many of you who are listening right now understand that we have been talking about the pearl inside the seashell for years. And now it's all coming around full circle. Because as calcium gathers around the impurity, it forms shells and layers. Layer upon layer is laid down. Shells within shells. Russian dolls. And that is very similar to exactly the nature and makeup of our reality.
You create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their subconscious.
How could I ever acquire enough detail to make them think that it's reality?
Well, dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. Let me ask you a question. You never really remember the beginning of a dream, do you? You always wind up right in the middle of what's going on.
I guess, yeah.
So how did we end up here?
Well, we just came from the,
Think about it, Ariadne. How did you get here? Where are you right now?
We're dreaming?
You're actually in the middle of the workshop right now, sleeping. This is your first lesson in shared dreaming. Stay calm.
This is our reality. Russian dolls. They just went through the entire periodic table from the first element to the last, and they form shells upon shells. Russian doll. Resonant frequencies building on one another.
How'd it go? Not good.
Dream within a dream, huh? I'm impressed. But in my dream, you play by my rules.
Ah, yes, but you see, Mr. Sato, we're not in your dream. We're in mine. Now you messed up the carpet. It wasn't my fault. You're the architect.
Hello, Neo.
Who are you?
I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision.
This is the domain of sin. Do you notice how we have these nested realities of truth? Pearls are pure. That's why they form the gates of heaven. It is the pure consuming the impure. And that's why Jesus said not to throw your pearls before swine. What he meant was, don't throw the clean before the unclean. Don't mix the two. So the child in the shell here, let me close this up, is actually a metaphor for Jesus. He's the pearl in the shell. You see how he's wrapped in these layers of linen? And he was wrapped in layers of linen at his crucifixion. The pearl in the shell. Now obviously this is a modified image. There's all kinds of dark imagery associated with this. But we're going to get into that, okay? I don't want you to think, oh, okay, so you're showing us something that you're trying to say something dark and evil is good. No, I'm just telling you what they were trying to depict here. All right. Now let's get back into this mosque, because it has some very profound relics within it that are just fascinating. There's what's called the Emperor's Door, and it is said to have been made from pieces of Noah's Ark. The church is actually filled with these supernatural relics. There's something also that's called the wishing column. Here it is here. And it is said to sweat or cry when you touch it. They've got it covered in like copper or bronze. But there's something like supernatural about it. Now, there's a dark history of this church, because during the siege of Constantinople, there were people trapped inside. Women and children hid inside the mosque, but they became trapped, and they became the spoils of war, divided amongst the triumphant invaders. It even says here that there were teenage males and young boys that were chained up and sold off into slavery. And now we understand the secret of this little boy here, trapped in the mosque, spoil of war in I Pet Goat 2. There was actually a sultan named Suleiman, spelt just like Soleimani. You know, the guy that Trump had bombed. And he put these candlesticks outside of the doors of the mosque. Let's look at that. Here it is. Here in the 16th century, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent brought 2 colossal candlesticks from his conquest of Hungary and placed them on either side of the mihrab. This is the opening here of the mosque, and you can see this looks very similar. It's actually the interior. And these are the 2 candlesticks that he bought. Now, is there any relation to Soleimani and Suleiman? I don't know, but they have the same name. It's actually spelt the same in the alternative spelling. See, in the Americanized version, we pronounce it this way, but in the rest of this article, you'll see it actually spelt differently. Let me show you. See? Spelt differently all throughout the article, 18 times, except for, actually just a few times, these are just the footnotes, but except for in the title of this Wikipedia article. Now, back to the mosque, because there's more connections. Now, Trump took out Soleiman, and in iPetGoat we see they took out the Hagia Sophia, which could have also been a metaphor for the Soleimani Mosque, which is another major mosque literally yards away from this one on the Golden Horn of Turkey. So there was some kind of manifestation of what happened in iPetGoat 2 in real life when Trump took out Soleimani.
Tens of thousands joined funeral processions, giving Iran's most powerful military leader a hero's send-off. Chanting "Death to America," the crowds of Shia Muslims took to the streets in Iraq, vowing revenge. The commander of Iran's overseas operations, Qasem Soleimani, was assassinated in a US drone strike. CCTV footage has emerged of the moment that rockets hit 2 cars driving out of Baghdad's airport. Of course, there's fury in Iran too, with anti-Western demonstrations growing before Qasem Soleimani's body is flown home for burial. Iranian officials say the killing of the general is a declaration of war. At a rally in Miami, US President Donald Trump said he ordered the killing to stop a war.
He was planning a very major attack, and we got him.
American soldiers are pouring into the Middle East, with an extra 3,000 troops being deployed. President Trump said he wanted to get out of this region's seemingly endless wars. But in deed and words, he's doing precisely the opposite, even threatening to attack Iran's culturally significant sites. The immediate consequence of all this is that more US troops will be needed to brace for Iran's inevitable response. Adam Harvey, ABC News, Beirut.
They talk about a golden crescent was mounted on the top of the dome, just like in iPetGoat 2. Let me show you that. When it imploded, you'll see the golden crescent. And it implodes down into, you can see it there. It's not golden, but I think you get the metaphor. Now, Trump has been compared to Justinian, the guy who built this mosque. What do you mean, Casey? That's probably a stretch. No, it's not. Let's look at Justinian. Here he is here. He was known as the emperor who never sleeps. And guess what? Trump was also known as the person who never sleeps.
I'm working long hours, right up till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. What time do you get up? 5 o'clock.
Some quick math shows that's just 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night for President Trump. That's well short of the 7 to 9 hours doctors usually recommend.
Gwenda Blair, Trump's biographer, even said in a 2017 interview with The Guardian that Trump has made a big deal of saying he never sleeps, and that people who sleep are lazy. But there's more. So we showed you the Trump connection to the mosque, that they asked that it not be converted into a mosque from a museum. That happened on the summer solstice. Now we're showing you how he compares in not ever sleeping. And both ruled over riots. Yep. Justinian was actually involved in quelling riots. And guess what they were called? The Nika riots. Or you could call it Nika riots. And he actually dispatched soldiers to take out these rioters who were citizens. And he killed 30,000 to quell the Nika riots. But there's more. There was a huge depopulation of Italy under Justinian. So there was all these synchronicities. Let's look this up here so you guys can see this. Look at this creepy picture of Justinian. So, Justinian ruled over the very first Black Plague in human history. In fact, they named this Black Plague the Justinian Plague. You can't make this up. Here it is right here. The Plague of Justinian was the beginning of the first plague spamdemic. The first old world spamdemic of plague. You can't make any of this up.
But somewhere in that vast dominion, with enough ammunition to wipe out not just the capital city, what that would mean in life. $100 million were struck down by the plague.
After this plague, they were hit by an earthquake and a tsunami. And this is one of the creepiest rulers I think I've ever seen, because something else happened during his rule. The sun shone. There were noxious, but it was providing daylight, but it refused to give much heat. There were nauseous fumes in the air. This was during the 530s, and it seemed to many that God had abandoned the Christian Roman Empire. This caused a famine unlike any of those of the time that had seen before. Winter is coming, just like in Game of Thrones. The sun shone, but it refused to give much heat.
I know this is hard for you, but winter is coming. We know what's coming with it. We can't face it alone.
And who can say how many years this winter will last?
With a growing concern over the notion that chemical and biological weapons were unaccounted for and could potentially fall into the hands of terrorists, the Department of Defense wanted to test the nation's readiness for such an emergency. In June 2001, the DoD conducted a war game called Operation Dark Winter.
Dark Winter was a major exercise that was done prior to 9/11, earlier in 2001, to look at the effects of a biological terror event. And it was kind of a scary scenario. We would lose a lot of people if a really effective bioterror event occurred.
The simulation evaluated the government's ability to respond and communicate with the public, and the exercise even included mock news reports.
Since the diagnosis of 20 smallpox cases in Oklahoma City 12 days ago, hundreds have now died, thousands have become infected.
We had to, think about things like, quarantines and martial law, and things like that. All of a sudden, our system wasn't our system anymore because we had this terrible thing going on, and we had to change. We had to, change the way we thought about things. We had to change the way the military interrelated with the civilian world, and it was really an eye-opener.
And the conclusion were tens of millions of deaths, no commerce between states, no airplanes flying for 6 months, and war between Oklahoma and Texas.
Today, the world is confronting a public health emergency unlike any we've seen in over a century. We are facing a highly transmissible and deadly virus which not only claims lives but also disrupts the very foundations of our society. The American healthcare system is being taxed to the limit. Our economy is spiraling downward, and our population is being paralyzed by fear stemming from a lack of a coordinated response and a dearth of accurate, clear communication about the path forward. Our window of opportunity is closing. If we fail to improve our response now, based on science, I fear the pandemic will get worse and be prolonged. There will be likely a resurgence of COVID-19 this fall. It'll be greatly compounded by the challenges of seasonal influenza. Without better planning, 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history. 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history.
Solar minimum? Who knows? So then this was followed by a tsunami. In 551, the eastern Mediterranean was rocked by the 551 Beirut earthquake, which triggered a tsunami. Combined fatalities events exceeded 30,000, with tremors felt from Antioch to Alexandria. Now, Justinian, his goal was to bring back the Roman Empire, but all of his desires to do that were stopped by what he was faced with this plague and the earthquakes and tsunamis. Now, Donald Trump has been compared to Justinian himself, sealing the deal that iPetCode 2 predicted his presidency way back in 2012. CNBC dated May 4th, 2016, the beginning of, well, this was before he got elected. And they're saying, now forget about the message, just think about how they're comparing him to Justinian, okay, as I read through this article. Justinian I, a Byzantine emperor, known as emperor who never sleeps, made it his goal to restore the Roman Empire to its former glory. He spent much of his time and resources to achieve that end. He was successful at recapturing the enemy's lost territories, but never fully regained its lost glory. Some historians have suggested that Justinian's land grab actually hastened the final decline of what was once the Western Roman Empire, which after his death was reconquered by the very people Justinian drove out. This took place in the 6th century, but it seems to be playing out all over again, more than 1,000 years later, with Donald Trump. Now that Trump is the likely nominee, he needs to change his message to unify the party and the nation. Trump's vision for the nation is backward-looking. See how they couch this? They knew. They know exactly what they're going to do. Trump should learn from the mistakes of Justinian and others who have gone before him. They are comparing him to Justinian, the Roman ruler, who made the mosque that we found in iPetco 2, long before he was even thinking about running for president, and nobody knew he was going to win. Now, there are more synchronicities, because this plague of Justinian, they're saying, originated from China. It says here, ancient and modern Yersinia pestis strains closely related to the ancestor of the Justinian plague strain have been found in Tian Shan, a system of mountain ranges on the borders of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and China, suggesting that the Justinian plague originated in or near that region. It says here, the most basal or root level existing strains as a whole are found in Qinghai, China. What does Trump call the CV? He calls it the Chinese plague. But it goes deeper. There are more synchronicities between Justinian and Trump, because Justinian appears as a character in a 1939 time travel novel. Yes, Justinian was a time traveler. The novel is called Lest Darkness Fall. Now, I can't find a free copy of this anywhere, otherwise I would have read it to you, the part that talks about Justinian. And we could have looked at it to see if there were any comparisons to Biff and Trump. But there is something really weird going on with the Justinian character and Donald Trump. Way back in 2016, they were comparing him to him before he even won the presidency. What you're going to see in this image here, in the background, is what appears to be, and what we originally thought was, an explosion. And we look at this, and we looked at this, and we realized that this is a map. What you're looking at here is actually a map. This dark area down here is the Caspian Sea. This area where the shell is the Caucasus Mountains. And there's a particular seashell. You see her holding this bottle of heliotrope purple. And apparently this comes from the Hexaplex trunculus shell. They derive this blue-purple dye. It is very sought after, and these shells exist almost exclusively in the Caucasus Mountains, which basically divide the Caspian Sea from the Black Sea. Here's the proof. The Hexaplex trunculus says right here, some of the dyeing certainly occurred at home, but complicated dyes such as purple were undertaken by professional dyers. 4 classical textile remains preserve traces of purple dye, the fragments of Calvia. And it goes on down here to talk about how the people from the Caucasus Mountains use the decorative fabrics with elaborate figures with a paint or dye created by mashing the leaves of a certain plant and mixing them with water. And they also talk about the shells being used as well. Now, it took 12,000 of these shells to make 1.4 grams of this purple dye. So, if we're looking at this as a map, as I just spoke to you a few minutes ago, and we're trying to figure out that this is the Caspian Sea, this is the Caucasus Mountains, what's this in the background? Well, this is the Astana Concert Hall. And this is where things go off the rails, where we wrap this all up. You see these large protruding, but somewhat, concentric looking protrusions coming out of the ground. Okay, so I dug, and we actually found this back in 2013. This is most likely the Astana Concert Hall. So this is the Astana Concert Hall, okay? And as you can see, it is very visually similar. And so if we were to look at this as a map and compare this image here, we begin to see that this emerges. And it looks very visually similar to the concert hall. So now let's look at the map. Now that you have your orientation, the Caucasus Mountains, which are here. Let's blow this up. Here, the Caucasus Mountain divides the Black Sea from the Caspian Sea. This is where all these purple shells are that were used in antiquity. And then here is Astana, right here. So now you see that the woman is sitting in the shell here. You saw the black portion, which is the Caspian Sea, between her and the Astana Concert Hall. It's a progression. Now, when we look at the eclipse that occurred on June 21st, this will help tie it all in together. Remember the Boston Marathon? Well, the mother and the family were from this region right here.
The symbolism of the Boston bomber also in this predictive programming that we have, and all these things that are in sequence with what's going on. They do is they create chaos so they can impose their order, and that's the symbolism that we're seeing here. And you know, one of the things that was interesting to me is the Monoceres constellation is the unicorn, and we'll have to do a separate show on that. But the rhinoceros is named after this unicorn constellation that represents Horus, which is the false Christ. And there was a tapestry that was filmed with the Rockefellers explaining this. And like I said, we'll have to do another show on that, but it's just fascinating, all of the symbolism, you know, with the pomegranate tree and Persephone and all of these things that tie into it. And, you know, in the iPet Goat video, we see when the false Christ comes out after the Horus rises from the mosque, and you see the false Christ birthed in the Anubis boat, and he has the Aten sun on his head, which Akhenaten worshipped, which represents Mercury. So I just find that interesting. And, you know, Enter the Stars also had this movie that we had in ours too, 007. Yeah, and it had the skeleton dancer that was in the iPet Goat. And then you see the skeleton on top on the specter. But not only that, there was a one-eyed showing the one-eyed symbolism again in that movie that we showed in our last video. And then in that other movie that we showed with the Eye of Horus and him putting the eye in his head. I mean, there's a lot of symbolism of war. See all the celebrities making the one eye symbolism. Even, you know, the popes did the one eye symbolism in the 666, and then you got CERN. So you have all this symbolism that is all tied together, that's just in sequence. I mean, it's such synchronicity in the movies and videos and predictive programming, and symbolism is just everywhere right now. And the Economic Magazine for 2016, the unicorn is a symbol of the third eye. And so you see this guy wearing a blue hat representing Mars, the god of war, and he has some sunglasses on that says Pi upside down, which is representing the Indo-Europeans, and it's a bloodline of the silver thread. And so he's representing this, that he has the third eye open. I don't know who he is, so if anybody knows who this guy is, and let me know.
Yeah, and it connects to Zechariah chapter 11, verse 17, where it says, "Woe to the worthless shepherd who leaves the flock. A sword will be on his arm and on his right eye. His arm will be totally withered and his right eye will be blind." And I find that totally relates to this one eye symbolism that they like to do.
Unbelievable. Now, the mother, we're going to call them the SARS, because that's how you say the first part of their name. The two sons, the two brothers that were at the Boston Marathon were accused, right? Well, their mother is often pictured in a hijab, just like the woman in iPet Go 2. This is her right here. And in iPet Go 2, she is pictured crying black tears. Look at the tears on her face. They are black. Well, there was a particular song called Black Tears by an Australian band. And it was all about an in-custody police death. Here's the song here, Black Tears, Australian alternative rock band Powderfinger, 6th studio album on June 2nd, 2007. And this was all about a man who died in the 2004 Palm Island death in custody. Here's the Wikipedia page here. And of course, Who died in police custody? One of the brothers. Now, this was an Aborigine man who was killed, and now you understand how this all comes full circle back to exactly what we're experiencing right now. You just saw the beginning and the end of something very important. Now, one of the boys, see if we can find his picture. There he is. Look at his eye. He was a boxer. This is the one that died in police custody. And if you look at the images of I, Pet Goat, the woman, the mother, remember, she's also a metaphor for Mary and the child Jesus, right? But they're also dovetailing. Remember, it's nested realities. So it can mean 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different things. In God's mind, it represents infinite truth. There are infinite meanings to any one thing. But in this I, Pet Goat scene, we're looking at 2 nested realities. In one reality, it's Mother Mary and the son Jesus. In another reality, it's Mother Sar and her son. Look at the eye. Look at the eye. Wrapped in boxing tape instead of the ceremonial linen. Wrapped in boxing tape. Unbelievable. Now you'll see the scarab beetle crawling on his forehead. Remember, I, Pet Goat 2 came out in 2012, long before anything that we're talking about today happened. This scarab we identified back in 2013. Scarab backwards is Barak. Barak's scarab, under the president under which this in custody death would happen. Remember, the mother saw the videotape and she said, "That's my son," and nobody listened. He was alive in police custody and then he was gone.
They already told us that they're never gonna show us Jahar. What have you done with my son? He was alive. Why did they need to kill him? Why didn't send him to the, Guantanamo or whatever? Why did they kill him?
Why is Astana the concert hall on the backdrop of this image here? Astana rules the elite world. It's the silent ruler. They are at the top of the food chain.
Luciferian New World Order is in the process of establishing a communistic, socialistic one-world government. In addition to this new socialistic world government, it will also establish a new religion. This new religion will embrace all the world's religions, but will in fact promote Lucifer as the true God. Those who do not worship the beast spoken of in Revelation and do not accept the mark of the beast will be cut off from society and terminated. Talking about the New World Order and the new one world religion that goes along with it, I want to introduce you to a place called Astana in Kazakhstan. Astana is described as the New World Order's great city, and I'm reading from this website which says, Astana is the capital city of Kazakhstan with an official estimated population of nearly 700,000 people as of March 1st, 2010. Astana is the first large capital being built in the 21st century. The word Astana originates from Persian, Astana from the verb istadan, which means to stand in respect, and literally means threshold, i.e. royal or sacred, when people stand in respect and awe, implying where the court is seated, as in a capital city or a shrine town. What this really means is that Astana is being built as a shrine to the New World Order. Now, we want to have a look at what this means and the symbolism surrounding this, as well as the religious aspects or the religious dimensions to it. The city has been described as a futuristic occult capital being built in a remote and deserted area of the Asian steppes. The city also depicts many instances of sun worship, making one believe that the city is a celebration of the religion. So let's have a look at some of the photographs of the New World Order capital. Now this imagery here, these 2 pillars that we see, let's see what the website says about these 2 pillars. It says, This layout is present in a majority of important cities, including Washington, D.C. and Paris. The two golden pillars are believed to represent Masonic symbolism, specifically the two pillars of Masonry, Boaz and Jachin. These pillars are featured in all Masonic lodge rooms. Boaz and Jachin were two copper, brass or bronze pillars which stood in the porch of Solomon's temple, the first temple in Jerusalem. Okay, so we see Masonic imagery. Here we can see that the main building, which is sort of the presidential palace, is built along the same lines as Washington, D.C. Now, of course, we know that Washington, D.C. was built totally along occult lines. And we'll see another view here of the presidential palace. Here we can see what is called the Tree of Life. At the back here, we'll see later that there's a meeting room right at the top here where the world's religions are being united. There's an eagle up there which symbolizes power. We're seeing basically a New World Order, New Age city being built. Okay, so let's carry on. Going inside, we see this globe signed by representatives from 17 religious denominations, and this represents uniting all religions together under the New World Order. Very, 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 very significant. Okay, so we see a clear plan that part of the New World Order is to unite the world's religions without a shadow of doubt. Now, this pyramid is dedicated to the renunciation of violence and to bring together the world's religions. The architect claims that the building has no recognizable religious symbols, but in reality the pyramid is a temple for sun worship, which is the religion of the New World Order. The pyramid is the main symbol of Freemasonry and ancient religious doctrine. Today's elite use these pyramids as symbols of power throughout the world. Las Vegas and Dubai contain similar structures, as do many other cities in the world. Here we have the apex of the pyramid, and this is what we're going to see inside. So the apex is round and covered with sunlight. Images of white doves are embedded in the windows. This is obviously to do with world peace, representing also the unification of world governments and religions in this round circular shape, and the New World Order. So the apex, which is at the top of the pyramid, is the ultimate representation of illumination, which is the spiritual evolution of humanity into this new golden age or era of Aquarius, as we've seen before. Inside, we see this meeting room, and we see the sun imagery and eye right in the center of this room. I mean, it couldn't be more clear. This is pure Luciferian worship right here. This is Lucifer being worshipped. And this meeting room here, which is the main room, also has the sun symbolism and or eye in the ceiling. And it is the conference room where the religious leaders of the world meet. But we can see here the sun occupies the whole ceiling. So all about illumination. This is the Tree of Life. And it says this monument is meant to embody a folk tale about a mythical tree of life and a magic bird of happiness. The Tree of Life, as it's called, is a roadmap which spirits supposedly use when they leave the material world to join the afterlife. The golden globe at the top of the monument represents the sun, the supreme deity, and here we have sun worship again. Now inside the gold globe, which is right at the top of that construction there, we have this very strange looking symbol. And it's a gold triangle which represents the president's handprint in the center, the president of this country. But there's something obviously much more mystical here. I believe this has to do with Satan, who the Bible says is the master of this world, or the prince of this world. This person says that the global elites scatter their symbols and doctrines all over the world, and of course the general population fail to recognize what's going on. So, this could signify Satan's mark on the world, or his thumbprint or handprint, making it an impression into this triangle. He's stamping his authority. Ultimately, this is right at the top of this Tree of Life. So, once again, we have the shrine to Luciferianism, to illumination, that Satan is in fact the light bearer and the bringer of light to humanity and spiritual life to humanity. Here we have a helix shape. The helix has to do with the DNA of mankind, and one of the very significant things that you're going to find when you start studying the occult and what's happening in this New Age One World religion is the fusion of the sons of God with the daughters of men, i.e. the fallen angels being fused with humans to form these new superhumans, again this concept of transhumanism. And I'm sorry to say it, but it also is in the shape of a male sexual organ. which is very significant in things like Freemasonry, because most of the occult religions have to do with fertility cults. So man is building a shrine to himself. Lucifer is being glorified as the god of this world. And here we have this new age, new century city being built to glorify man, without any shadow of doubt. This is very pagan, very occultic.
Billions, maybe if not even trillions of dollars spent in a place that seems to have no source for its money. And it just so happens that during the summer eclipse, Astana actually saw a partial eclipse. This is chilling. This is the June 21st, 2020 eclipse. We call this the Apollo eclipse of the summer solstice, the day that Trump had his return rally. Okay? And look at this. This is the closest that I could get the marker to Astana. They basically experienced a partial eclipse. Here it is here. This is exactly what it looks like. And now I believe we found what this is in the background. That's the partial eclipse right there. Let's do side by side. See that? So here we are, full circle, June 21st. In custody, police death on Memorial Day, remember? And let's take a look at the path of this eclipse, because this is crazy. Let's zoom in on some of these cities. This actually goes right very near Wuhan. Here are the cities here. It's loading up. And goes right underneath Afghanistan. And here you can see where I put the marker. In Kazakhstan, there's the marker there. They saw a partial eclipse. Here is the sea there. Here are the Caucasus Mountains. Here's Dagestan in the Caucasus, which is where the Tsar family was from. And now we've decoded the scene in iPet Goat. And as you can see here, all down through here, this is all hijab territory. Bottom of Saudi Arabia, the eclipse went right through it. And this marked the cry later. Cry later. See her face? The sad face eclipse. But why? Because it forms a sad face. The path of the eclipse forms a sad face. Okay, there it is right there. And we've all been masked. She's wearing her mask. That's not a mask, Casey. Yes, it is. It's the Cry Later mask. Now, there's the veil. It's called a niqab. It is a part of the hijab. So, see the mouth? That is a mask. She is wearing a mask. You just don't know it. See? Cry Later eclipse. We have the smile now on December 26th. That went right underneath China. That marked the beginning. They were telling us all to smile together at home. And now we're crying later because we bought the lie. So now you know how all this ties into the GF incident, Memorial Day incident. And now we're all in our hijab, niqab masks. This was about fear of the faith, all while masking us under the faith, under their faith in America. That's what this is. It's humiliation and fear. They're wielding violence to create fear and control. So how did iPetGo 2 know that this would happen months and years before it did? Well, that's for you to decide. You know, they give us clues. The Economist cover, people, some people turn away from iPetGo 2, but yet when something comes out like on The Simpsons or South Park, that's okay when they foreshadow things, but iPetGo wasn't. It's just another tool that they use, you guys. They just think most of us are too stupid to figure it out.
We are warriors with nothing to lose. You've given us purpose. You've given us a plan. We pray protection around law enforcement today, Lord God. Let's do this, guys. Hey, guys.
We're not looking for any fights. We are here simply to stand with Donald Trump and for his fellow supporters. And in the event that we have to provide extra security, we will.
The armed citizen is the first line of defense, law-abiding weapons carriers. But the people that don't want to follow the law, they'll get what they deserve.
Everyday patriots are coming on board, and people who want to stand up to the leftist, racist murderers that are killing cops.
Chris Cox is founder of Bikers for Trump, a grassroots group that has shown its political support by becoming a protective force. After violence erupted at some Trump rallies, Cox and other bikers began showing up to guard against angry protesters.
We'll see you at the Albany rally.
All right, guys, let's load it up.
All over the place, no matter where I go, there's bikers. And they come.
Donald Trump praised his biker friends over Memorial Day weekend after Rolling Thunder endorsed him for president.
We'd have 1,000 bikes. And I said, what are they all doing here? And my people would say, they're here to protect you, Mr. Trump. It's an amazing thing.
Now they've come from as far away as Arizona and South Carolina to patrol the Republican National Convention.
I'll be darned if I see a woman getting assaulted, spit on, eggs thrown at, shouted at, cursed at. I will not allow that in my presence.
Because bikers want to see a wall built, because bikers want to see Syrian refugees vetted, it doesn't make us racist, it makes us patriots. We've got to change our policies in Washington. We got to work on bringing jobs back to America. We have to work on race relations in America. I see Black Lives Matter, they're very frustrated with the way things are going, but the way that they're acting is counterproductive to our country. You see these young black men and women jumping up and down on cars and lighting things on fire, looting pharmacies. You'll never see a biker do any of those things.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Donald Trump Museum, dedicated to America's #1 citizen and America's greatest living folk hero, the one and only Donald Trump. Learn the amazing history of the Trump family.
Somebody criticized me the other day because they asked me what I do, and I said, I'm going to bomb the shit out of them. It's true. I don't care.
Friends, and I guess I have some very good enemies, and I like it that way somehow, and I really believe in trashing your enemies.
Inside, you will learn how Donald Trump's father left him a large inheritance.
Nobody's going to do more women than Donald Trump. That I can tell you. That I can tell you. And I think they know it.
Discover how in 2016 Donald Trump successfully lobbied to legalize gambling.
Part of the beauty of me is that I'm very rich.
He wants to run for president and move on into the White House. Why not?
Share in the stupidity of the average American as they made him the 45th president of the United States.
That will easily go down as the greatest president in the history of the United States. Me, Donald John Trump.
No! Hey, no! Hey, wait, you come with us upstairs. There you go, Sonny. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way.
See, look, even here it's saying to receive the scroll and to break open its seals. Oh my goodness, I didn't even realise this was here. I used this picture in a video the other day. That is Apollyon the Destroyer. Mars, the Roman god of war. And we've got that same representation of the Holy of Holies type thing, and him raising out of it Apollyon the Destroyer, the Antichrist. That is not Jesus. I don't think it takes much to work out that that's not Jesus.
Our coverage this morning of Pope Francis in America with Nora at the White House. Nora?
Thank you, Gail. You know, Pope Francis is also going to celebrate his first Mass in the United States, and that is at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Now, he is the third Pope to visit the Basilica that is on the Catholic University of America campus. And Chip Reed is there to show us what to expect this afternoon. Chip, good morning.
Well, good morning. You know, around here, most people simply call it the Shrine, and it is a beautiful building. It is the largest Roman Catholic church in America. In fact, they're expecting about 25,000 people here this afternoon to see and hear the Pope celebrate Mass.
final mission to save mankind has failed.
The 70-mile-wide asteroid known as Matilda
is set to collide with Earth in exactly 3 weeks' time, and we'll be bringing you our countdown to the end of days, along with all your classic rock favorites.
Feel free to wear your casual Friday clothing pretty much any day of the week. And if anyone wants to be CFO. Anyone?
So, what are you doing with the rest of your life?
Catching up on some me time, find God.
Before the sun is gone.
you seek him, he'll come in. If you seek him, he'll come in. Bless your name, Jesus. Bless your name, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord.